Hello, everyone. Do you hear me well? Yeah, cool. Hola. So I'm going to talk to you about the development of the datos package that's part of the R for Data Science translation. So this talk is about how it is to be an R user when English is not your first language. So we have to acknowledge that there's a language gap, that people that doesn't speak English or that are not very proficient in English, that can be a very difficult thing to do. So for example, when you try to learn something new, you want to insert some data into a vector and want to learn how to use the append function, you may run into this resource, the R cookbook. So you want to learn how to use this function, and you have this whole context that explains you how to use it. But when English is not your first language and you're not very proficient, that context doesn't exist at all. So you have to try to figure out how to understand that function without the context. And sometimes that can be very difficult. So someone may ask, why don't you just learn English? That will be much easier. Okay, well, that's a possibility, but for many people, learning English is a privilege. The country where I came from, I live in Chile, one level of an English course can cost you like $500, but the minimum wage is $350. So it's not only costly, but we also have to think it's time-consuming. So you want to learn R, so why I have to learn English first and then learn R? That's not the idea. So happy R users like me want that everybody learns R. So sometimes we have dreams like this one, for example, have R for Data Science translated to Spanish and have R4DS de datos. So O'Reilly, you can help us. So the story I'm going to tell you starts in 2017, and as many stories in the R community, it started on Twitter. So Hadley Wickham announced that R for Data Science was going to be translated into Chinese, French, Korean, Portuguese, Russian, Serbian. Cool. So Marcela Alfaro from the Costa Rican R community asked, well, what about Spanish? And Hadley said, strangely, no. And that's very strange because Spanish is the language that had the second most amount of native users. So there's a lot of Spanish-speaking R users that want to read this. So in 2018, Edgar Ruiz from RStudio, he forked the original repository and decided to start the translation, but he didn't do nothing at all because this is very difficult to do, translate a book. So he needed a community, and he was alone in this. And a couple of months later, at our Open Science Conf, Laura Sion asked Hadley, what about the translation? And he said, no, it's not going to happen. O'Reilly's not interested in Spanish. But you can do it if you want. So she spread the news around the Our Ladies network and on Twitter, and the next week we have the first conference call between all the people that were interested in this project. And just 2 days after the video conference, we have our X sticker, because if you don't have an X sticker, you're not a real R project. So we became a sticker-driven project. We have a team and stickers, so we can start. So everyone started forking the repository. And 21 people were involved in the translation from different backgrounds, from different countries. And we have another around 30 people that review those translations. So this was about 50 people effort project. So all these people speak different varieties of Spanish, which is very useful because you don't want to be rude, translated something in some way, and that's very offensive in another part of Latin America. People from different backgrounds. There were people that were from statistics, from biology, from social science, from the humanities. Also people with different R experience, experts and novices, and people with different GitHub experience. And this was very risky because we fork the repository and the people fork our fork. So you have around 30 people trying to manage how to contribute. So in this first conference, we decided two things. First, that we want to translate the text and the datasets that are used in the book, because they're useful not only for the book, but for teaching R. And also, which infrastructure we were going to use. So we use mainly GitHub and Slack. In GitHub, we have our fork of the book. We have a repository with all the documentation of the project, and the repository for the package. And we have responsibilities. Edgar was leading the development of the package. Pacha was involved with taking care that we didn't break the repository. And I was involved with the translation and coordinating the whole process. So GitHub is very useful for translation because you can have like both versions of the text, and reviewers can put comments in between, so they can make suggestions how to improve the translation. And Slack was also very useful. Well, we can organize us, but also because of polls, because we have to make many decisions about how we are going to translate some stuff. For example, we have empty cars. We have to translate it cars, and we can say cars in 3 different ways in Spanish. So we have to decide autos, coches, or carros. So autos won, and now we have MT autos. And there's some other very difficult stuff to decide. For example, we have the pipe, and in Spanish, all nouns has a grammatical gender. So we have to decide if the pipe was going to be masculine or feminine. So we made a poll, and everyone voted that a pipe was masculine, except me, because for me the pipe was a she. So now I have to like change all my mind about how I thought about the pipe. So we decided that we want to translate the text and the data sets. And for the text, there were previous experiences that were very helpful. For example, the carpentries has translated some lessons to Spanish. And they have these guides with the agreements about how they are translating technical words. So we get inspired about that. And also the Programming Historian, it's a project, a website, where we publish peer-reviewed tutorials that help people from the humanities to learn digital tools, and has a version in Spanish and French. So there are like guidelines for reviewers, for translation, for authors, and that's was very useful to get inspired by that. And what about the dataset? There were 2 possible approaches. What we wanted is, for example, we have the diamonds dataset, we want diamantes, and we wanted to have like the variable translated and the name of the different values. And one possible approach was just to, for example, rename the variables and then translate the name of the values. But another approach was using datalang, a package that Edgar Ruiz developed, that has this function that's called translated data, that takes a YAML file with the translation, the specification for the translation, and as a result, you get your dataset translated. So how it works, you have this YAML file. So you put which is the source package, the original dataset in English, how it's going to be named in Spanish. You specify how you want to translate the variables. For example, price became precio, and the description. You also explain which values you want to translate it, and you also translated the help. So you have documentation in Spanish also. So you not only get the dataset translated, but also you get the help page for the dataset. So that's very useful for people who are learning. So this approach of translating the book and the dataset using this package make very easy to contribute, because you can participate in a package just by knowing how to edit a YAML file. So last year, when we were developing the package, we sent a proposal to Toulouse, but the package wasn't finished. So it became a conference-driven package. We have to finish it before the conference. So we were working fine, but when we decided to send the package to CRAN, we realized it was too bulky, because we have like a package with a lot of datasets inside. So what we decided to do was that the dataset translate on the fly. So actually the translated datasets are not in the package. In the package, you only find the YAML files. So we have these 2 functions that translated the data on the fly. Once you call, for example, diamantes, it goes to find the YAML, translated the dataset, and offer you the translated version. So that makes the package much lighter. So we were very happy with that, but one day we were trying to do something, and we realized we were not able to call the dataset that way. And we were like very stuck and hardly remember that this function exists, delayed assign, and that helped us to solve that. So now you can call the datos package whichever way you want. So we are in CRAN now. Edgar was leading the development of the package, and Pacha, Mauricio Lepore, and I helped with the whole process, and also people from the community got involved. And where we are now, the datasets are all translated. the code. We had to edit all the code from the book because it has like the original datasets. The translations are ready and the reviews are ready. So we have like the first complete version of the book in es.r4ds handly.ns. So now we have this first version that people can use to learn R. And there was a thing we have to decide, what about the edition? Because we want this book to be updated every time. So I decided that a good idea is to watch the repository. So every time they change something in the original repository, I can edit it back to the book. And one day, January 15, I woke up and I hardly we can collapse my inbox with 42 messages because they decided that that was the day to update all the pull requests that were in the original repository. So I thought I was able to be a conference-driven editor, but I failed, so I'm still like making the last changes. So is this really the end of the project now that the book is ready? This started in 2018, but I think it's a project that will last forever. Because what we have created is not just a translation and a book package. What we created was human and technical infrastructure to shorten the language gap that currently exists. And I think our big contribution developing the datos package was creating brand new errors. Because people now, if they fail using the package, they are not going to find ways to solve it alone. But I think this is an opportunity because each failing is a way to make our community stronger. So thank you very much.
So once again, if you'd like to ask a question, we use the app.sli.do. We have one question here. Have you seen an increase in Spanish-speaking R users since the release of the package?
Yes, I think so we put the book online from the beginning, so you can start like using the chapters. Some of them were translated very fast. So yeah, so there are many people that are using the package to teach. So it has now alive outside the book translation.
Fabulous. That's the only question we have. Well, please, thank you.